So, wait, Ellie,
Yeah.
how long were you in Edinburgh for then? Just out of interest.
Um, I was there for about a year. I was there for a semester or 2 semesters at like actually studying, and then I stayed the summer doing rehearsals for a fringe show,
Hmm.
and then I performed that show, and then I continued on a performance visa, and then I left like mid-November of 2017.
All right, okay, not
Um,
bad.
yeah, it was it was very life-changing for me. It was quite a time.
In like a
Wow.
good way or bad way or just a way?
In a really good way. Like
Yeah.
I felt like I was so like looking back now, I feel like I was very young and I made a bunch of like bad decisions, but it was also really amazing. Like the people I met were really influential on like who I've become.
Yeah.
And um Edinburgh is just such a like unique city. It's so beautiful and sad.
Yep.
um, but yeah, I want to go back and spend more time outside of Edinburgh. Um, I hitchhiked to like Trossachs National Park, which is like kind of a little less than midway.
Hmm.
The goal was to make it to the Isle of Skye in like a weekend, but that didn't work.
Right.
So people picked me up from Edinburgh and took me about like 8 hours to
Oh my
Trossachs
God,
National Park,
not
which is
bad.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Edinburgh once for a trip with family, and it is really interesting, like how the city's kind of split in two. You've got like the old town and the new town with all their kind of different architectural styles. Yeah,
Mhm.
very interesting place to visit.
And
Apparently,
very interesting place to pronounce as well.
yeah. Oh,
It
yeah.
sounds so good.
So many people get it wrong. It's Edinburgh, Edinburgh, bruh, bruh, bruh. That's how you say it
Bruh.
here. Yeah. Um, for loads of people say like Edinburgh or Edinburgh, which isn't quite right.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, Edinburgh. My dad and my grandpa visited me when I was there, and my dad is a little bit estranged from his biological father, but they
Hmm.
had a reconnection because he's quite old, and he's like very. I'm like from Scottish lineage,
Right.
and he's like one of those. My grandpa and my dad sort of are like Americans who like really identify with being Scottish, which doesn't sit well with Scots, obviously, but.
Yeah.
They visited and they went on like a whiskey tour, um,
Mm.
and basically my grandpa, but he's been in and out of my life, but he's like wasted the whole time. Like every like half hour we would stop at a pub. It
Oh
was
my God.
really
So
fascinating to be
the
there
only
with one
Scott I
guy,
know is Steven Scott, and yeah,
Yeah.
he's amazing.
Stephen Scott.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
that's
the
really good.
Scottish accent.
I
It's
love
very
it. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Same.
Do your grandfather speaks the
It's
same way,
melodic.
like Steven?
No, 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 no.
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 Oh no.
Oh
Not a
Oh.
It's so
chance.
thick, I can't even make it out.
Space
Yes.
Kiddo.
All right.
That was horrible.
It was
Can I do a quick-
legendary. So I ran a poll on my YouTube channel asking how many people would have actually used geometry nodes. Yeah. And well, for some reason, the results aren't showing up on my phone, which is weird. But I
Wow.
think it was something like 20 something percent yes, and the rest no, which is yeah, I think it was less than a quarter, just about. So less than a quarter of people have tried it so far. Because I was trying to gauge whether or
Yeah.
not it's going to be an interesting enough subject to talk about or maybe do some content about. Because I've been playing around with it recently with the Python experiments in relation to Biogen, which Arturo I think you saw on the Patreon. And to be honest, and not to like fan any flames, I'm not that impressed with it. Not so far, because it is in the early days, the early stages. And it's been interesting when you bring opinions up like that in different, kind of areas, because there's strong opinions about it. I think it's got good
Wow.
potential, but I don't think it's a ready point where like I can make anything very interesting with it yet. From like the Python perspective. And I'll just say before I pass it on, there's two main points I was looking at with geometry nodes. One thing I was really impressed with is how any input meshes you update in the scene immediately update the geometry nodes tree. So it's a real-time update, which I really liked, because imagine you're doing some generative modeling and you're like updating a mesh in the edit mode. It's updating as you're kind of doing it. So you don't need to go back and click to update, which I love. But the other thing I don't really like is that we can't really get face data directly in geometry nodes, which is weird because that seems like something we'd really want for parametric modeling. We can get like vertex points and vertex data, but actual faces and being able to manipulate them, that would be fantastic. So that's not there yet, but maybe in the future.
Even modifier control will be there in the future. They're working on it. There's like a, I think, what is it called? Like a thread going on. But once that is done, you can actually do everything in a single node without any burdens, like, going back to, what can I say? Like to the modifier stack to add these solidify modifier, which like should be there inside the node and the bevel if you're doing parametric modeling. And the two functions that I need is like, selection by faces and edges. And the other one, which I really want, is extrude node. If you have the extrude node, then you have everything. And the one more control that I want from Blender geometry nodes is if you change the model in the mesh, like in the mesh, all the data should be actually updated within the nodes as well. That's what Houdini does. I'm pretty sure like they'll take some inspiration, but yeah, it should be done at least in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely in its infancy. As far as interest out there, like I started doing some geometry node stuff on my Patreon, and this month was kind of hard. I like yesterday checked my numbers; it's like down by 16. I was like, "What? 16 people?" So then I dove into the into the responses of why people never go in there.
No. Yeah,
I guess it's a common thing though. Every month.
It's the start of the month, isn't it? So I just said Innit. I usually try not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You said Innit. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I usually try to avoid doing it, like when I'm doing the recordings and stuff.
How often do you do that? Like, you never used this before. Like, until I was in a voice school, you never.
I don't know. It slips up every now and again. I mentioned like in my server, we were talking about accents in the general chat.
Yeah.
I said in the last video I slipped up because when I was talking about prices, I said 39 when I was supposed to say 39, because when I'm doing like the script readings, I usually try and like pronounce the T's properly, just for like international audience listening. But every now and again I catch it. At the turn of the month, like whenever it clicks over to the beginning of the next month, that's when Patreon starts processing the fees, and obviously they don't know how many people are still subbed up. So I think when payments fail, the numbers drop. Because I've seen it where it goes down and then it comes back up again. It's like, okay, well, payments failed. Oh, now they're working. And it's like this weird number change. And
yeah,
then,
mine bounced up again from like one bounced up.
Yeah.
From like 17 to 16. I was like, okay. Oh, 17. I was like, ah.
I mean, I've been having a net positive mostly every month, except for last month, which was a net negative. I just don't really enjoy it that much because there's not that much engagement. Like, I put the content out on Patreon. I know some people see it, but then again, Patreon's way of tracking who engages with the content is a bit bad, because when you have a look on the post dashboard and it says like the views that a post has and the likes and like other things. I've had it before, it says like no views, but then I've got some likes and I'm like, well, clearly they viewed it to like it. So it's really difficult tracking whether people actually engage with the content.
It's true. It seems like you get much less engagement on Patreon. Like some people seem to get a lot of engagement. And last month for some posts I got good engagement, but you just want more because you're feeling like people are paying, so you want to give them value, and just like you want to be able to measure what people like versus what they don't like, so that you can give them more of what they like and what they want.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of hard. It makes it more difficult on Patreon, but I do like Patreon better than YouTube.
Yeah, but maybe I'll get some of your guys' opinions on it then. I look at my Patreon and think, right, I don't really enjoy it that much. I like what it does, and it's it's a nice kind of boost for the monthly fee. But I've got it split into like 3 different primary tiers, which is like the $1, the $5, and the $10, with a couple more above. $5 get access to private resources, and I don't add many that often. $10 get access to like personal art files. Now I make it very clear, like on my website page and stuff, that I'm like, look, I can't guarantee new stuff for every tier every month. What you're doing is you're just paying for an access to the content that's there. But still, in the exit surveys, I get people saying, oh, it's not posting as much as I thought you would, and this, that, and the other. And, well, I've kind of made it explicit. I can't really do more than that. But still, I have a feeling that there's a sense of low value, for like those mid tiers. So I've almost been considering squashing them down and like removing some of the tiers and just keeping it really simple. Like maybe just having a $1 or just having like a $1 and a $5 only or something, and putting absolutely every piece of content on the lower end just to make it more accessible to people. But then again, I can't really do that now that I've got people paying for the higher stuff, because then, they'd feel like they've been ripped off. So I was like playing around with all these different ideas, like, okay, well maybe if I did do that in the future, I could just like give the people that are already paying like $10 or more like lifetime access to all paid products or something, and see if they're happy with that. But then again, I'd have to make sure that everyone's happy with it, and I can't do that because not everyone responds. So there's going to be like people subbed up that I'll try and message that I won't get a response from. So then I won't be able to make a change because I don't know if they're happy with it or not.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge. I have one tier right now. It's $2 tier, and I just put everything I do up there. And I'm just looking at it, going, I'm totally selling myself short because there's stuff that I want to do. And so I'm gonna branch out in the opposite way, and probably up the tier, and I'll keep the people that are in there now at the $2 forever, and I'll just erase that $2 tier and just go like to a $3 or $4 tier, and then maybe like a $7 tier or something, and that'll be it.
Yeah,
I just roll with that, because it's like I do put quite a bit of time into developing these assets and giving them away. And when people come on, they grab everything for like $2 and then leave. It's like, oh, that's cool, but I feel like I'm just kind of like giving it all away for, I don't know, devaluing my own work. Even though I don't put like the best stuff I ever do up on YouTube, because like, I just don't. But whatever.
There's also like the question of, like, if you took, or in my case with the $10 tier, if I took everything that I'd posted on there and put it on Gumroad instead, would I have made more money on it? Then I know, like, it shouldn't always be about money, but that's what, Patreon is. The whole point of it is being able to give creators money. And if I took all of those art pieces and put them up for like $5 or something, realistically, I might have made more money than I had done from the Patreon support on the $10 tier. So that's something to think about as well. I don't really, because Patreon gives you sustainability, but then again, now it's kind of becoming like the smaller part of my business when comparing it to like everything else.
Yeah, in our community conversations over on the BlenderNest Discord server, which I'll get to in a moment, we chatted with Paul, who's a BlenderNest member, and he mentioned that his system in some way is reliant on Gumroad, so he puts most of his work over on Gumroad, and that's where you can download things. And what he does is he points people on Patreon to Gumroad and gives them some incentive, like 100% off or something.
Yeah.
I won't, if you want to check it out, it's patreon.com/PCAGEGI. I butchered it. I'll drop it in the description. But the whole point being that I thought that was a really interesting way to kind of separate the two, but also integrate them into one another, because you can have Patreon subscriptions, and then only the people that are subscribed to your Patreon will reap the benefits of whatever discounts you want to give for your Gumroad content. But if Patreon goes down or whatever, then you can still have everything centralized in Gumroad. Now you could say the same, what happens if Gumroad disappears, and then you're kind of in trouble there. But it might be an interesting way of maintaining some form of consistency independent of what the tiers are in Patreon, because you can just rely on having Gumroad be the hosting essentially for your products.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because I've been looking at Gumroad thinking, boy, I've been neglecting it. It's still bringing in like a fair amount of money, which I'm quite surprised about, because I haven't been putting out products. So I guess I've been very lucky about that, but it's really been neglected, because I want to keep building up that mailing list, because that was like one of my pride and joys, like going on for like the first couple of years on the YouTube channel. I had built up such a strong mailing list from all like the free add-on stuff and all of that, but I'm just not really making use of it. So I think I will probably have to start putting things out on Gumroad and then, letting patrons have the benefit of it. Because though I very much appreciate the support that people have given me on there so far, it does feel like, the content's not really being used by people or like utilized to like its potential. It just kind of feels like I put it up there and then nothing really happens to it, Maybe one or two people will take it and play with it, but if I can make it accessible to more people while still looking after my kind of business interests, then I think that'd be good. So,
Chris Bailey also has an interesting system, and if you want to dive deeper into these, you could either just ask them directly or check out their Patreons, because I might be fudging some of this, but in short, I think his system is that when you join that month that you join, you get access to that month's brand new content, and it's somewhat similar to CG Matters system too, in that you get early access, but then the stuff that's early access then gets released to YouTube. I think that's really clever, especially because there's people that will want to be ahead of the curve depending on what your audience is. And then you also don't get to have these products or these tools or these posts stagnate. And I think that might be some of what you are feeling. It's just like, it's really I'm sure in the sense of engagement, it's great to get to put out like a default file, and then you get like 4 comments of people going like, "Oh, this is great, thanks for sharing," and then that's it.
Yeah.
But there's not that sort of renewal every time that somebody lands upon it, where it just kind of sustains itself, if that makes sense, by either word of mouth. People be like, "Oh, go to this Gumroad link," right? It just, what happens on Patreon stays on Patreon, and to some degree, that's kind of not ideal.
Because I've got a lot of artwork on there now, like on the $10 tier. I'd like to make that more accessible to people, but then again, like the issue is people have already paid for exclusive access to it, and a certain number of those people have dropped off. But like, you're included in that; you have access to it now. But if I wanted to make it accessible to like more people in the future, so maybe I could put all of those up on Gumroad, then like, what's the strategy for doing that? Because when you have a look at like changing tiers or benefits on Patreon, they actually have a whole wiki page about building a strategy for like changing your tiers and making sure that your patrons are happy and all of that. You have to come up like with the specifics for how you're going to migrate content and move people on and off, and it's going to be a little bit tricky to think about.
You mentioned being really proud of the basically subscribers you've received from Patreon, so that you can send your monthly email to a group of people who are interested, or a newsletter, monthly newsletter.
Oh, on Gumroad as well. Like,
on Gumroad as well. Is there, what is that? I don't think I've received that newsletter. Like, what does that newsletter encompass, and is there a way to sort of like expand those themes to content you can put on Patreon specifically?
I'm not sure I completely understand the breadth of that question, but I can say that for the Patreon, what I do is every month I do a content report at the end of the month, where I basically break down everything that was made on the YouTube channels and other areas. Separate to that, there's a newsletter for Gumroad, which used to come out more frequently, like every couple of weeks, but now it's like maybe less than a month, more than a month in between. And I was very happy with the Gumroad mailing list, because it's like, I don't know, 50-something thousand people, which is nice. So I can use it as like a way to push old videos that I had made in between the current newsletter and the last one, so you can get like a flood of people come back in. But I've always been worried about posting another one of those out if there's no Gumroad related content on it. And because I've been lacking in putting stuff out on Gumroad, I haven't wanted to put another newsletter out for a while. On Patreon, I really like doing the content reports every month, because it's like a really condensed way of saying, wow, like you did all of this in a month. And the one that I did for April was like, I think the most substantial so far for the year. But the thing is, like, there's just, as I said, like just a lack of engagement, really, because I've got about, I think 60, 70 patrons, I think. I keep the number quiet. I don't like show any of the numbers or the money on the homepage. And I feel like I'm kind of min-maxing Patreon a bit because I've got a lot of people doing low and then some people doing really high amounts. So I think it kind of balances out. Ideally, I would like to do one of those kind of content report newsletters in a public way, probably using the Gumroad mailing list. But like I said, because I haven't been putting anything out on there, I don't feel comfortable enough making use of that list. Because I'll tell you, the last newsletter I did, I put a bunch of content out on there, and I got an email back from someone because I'd mentioned Patreon in the newsletter that said, just make sure you remember to put stuff on Gumroad for those of us that don't like using Patreon. I was thinking, yeah, I probably should.
You could migrate the stuff that you've got up on Patreon to Gumroad and give people who are already patrons an access code.
Yeah.
So that they can access it indefinitely or lifetime, like Kev was saying, and then that way you would be able to sort of merge the two by having stuff that was on Patreon, never saw it to Gumroad. Ooh, new background. Be there instead. I'm curious. Where are you?
I'm in
very
my
curious.
garage.
Aha.
Wow.
Marvelous.
So the electrics and networks are all done. So I've moved down here until they do the windows and stuff. No, I mean it's like a sort of construction site green screen effect I've got going on. Totally.
I mean, it kind of looked that way for a moment, just because of the depth of field. I'm like, oh,
That's cool.
interesting.
No, get in there. So the window guys reckon they'll be in about 6 weeks, 4 weeks at a push. So I've got that long, and then I've got the floor to do as well, and then it'll be. I'm still keeping a kind of brickwork feel, but I paint it white so it looks better on camera.
Arturo, just about that last bit there that you said, I think I might end up doing something like that, where I put all the artwork on Gumroad and maybe give everyone that was signed up, maybe even people that have recently dropped off from the tier but were on it for a long time, lifetime access to that content. Because I think right now, you're kind of paying for it on a monthly basis. Maybe giving lifetime access will make up for it if it goes public on Gumroad, because they'll never have to pay for it again. They'll just be able to get it whenever they like.
And then you get to do your push. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I could put it all up and do a massive. Maybe I could do a sailors. Okay, no, that's too getting too greedy. Yeah, no, I could probably put it all up and then do like a big, hey, the big dump, the big art dump. Yeah.
If you do, please call it that.
The big art dump.
This is big dump.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, I don't have an active Patreon at the moment, but I understand that you want to make sure that everybody's happy, but at the end of the day, it is your Patreon, same way as it is your YouTube channel, and the type of content and stuff that you want to change should be with consideration to the people that are so kindly supporting. But I feel like if you want to make any big changes, you've got the big button at the end of the day.
Yeah. Launch the nukes.
The big dump button.
Yeah, just go and nuke the site from orbit.
I want to take one moment. I promise I won't interrupt further on into the conversation to plug our Discord server just once more, because it's been a lot of fun to have so many people joining us. We've been having what we call community conversations over on the server, which, if you don't know or haven't joined, are conversations with the likes of Curtis, Charan, Kev, Paul, Aaron, as well as community members from the server who have reached out to be part of these interview sessions, where I will ask them a series of questions about their work. We'll showcase some of the things that they've done, and they'll take sort of like a Q&A session after the fact with the listeners in the audience that joins us. If you are curious about that, you have some ideas that are Blender specific, or you are proud of some of your work and you'd like to have it showcased in front of your peers, please definitely consider checking out the Discord server. And if you like the conversation so far, then I would also ask you to consider giving this video a like, because it helps the algorithm, helps other people like you find videos like ours. And if you aren't already, maybe think about subscribing so that you don't miss future updates like, Curtis's big dump. Back to the show.
Love it. Also, the notification bell is quite important. Make sure you set it to all instead of personalized, because personalized means never.
God bless YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about that, my channel just reached 3,000 subscribers today in the
Woo!
morning.
Well done.
That's
Yeah, that's such a
fantastic.
big book. I never expected that to happen anytime soon because I was not
Congrats.
posting any videos. Thank you so much, everyone. But yeah, like I think BlenderNest actually showed me who I am to the whole, world. It was such an amazing experience. Like I was
Aw.
nothing. Like it was nothing when I was starting. It was I remember having like 40 subscribers and being like, woohoo! Now it is like 3,000 people. Oh, that was really nice.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I'm proud of you.
It's like, thank you so much. It's like I'll never get this number again. Maybe I will. I don't know. Don't unsubscribe, please.
Just up from here.
Yeah.
It's a big accomplishment. I think the numbers can lose meaning really quickly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you all know, but I have like 100 and something subscribers right now, and yeah, I think it's amazing too. And I will never have this number again, as Charan just said. And if
Yeah.
you think about it, like if you imagine 130 people in a room or so,
Yeah.
listening to you speak about something like a
Whatever it
random
is.
project you've been working on like that week, that's a lot of people. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah.
probably the largest speech I've ever given, like 130
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So
It's like, I mean, I think about
amazing.
it this way, okay? It's like they're coming to watch me talk, even though they don't know who I am. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like this random guest came to this place where there are like 130 or now 3,000 people sitting in front of me and talking about what I'm gonna talk. It's just insane. But the best part about my YouTube stuff is like if I see my demographics, 80% are subscribed, which is kind of good, kind of bad because it's not reaching to many people. But then I'm getting consistent viewers, I would say.
Yeah. Consistent viewers is good. But as you're saying, it is actually quite nice to have a fair percentage of not subscribed watching because it's being recommended. But really, all you got to do is simple. Just keep making content.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
I'm just being late.
Yeah.
Please, Kev, say something.
What do you want me to say other than congratulations?
Shame him. Shame him into making more content. Go on. Shame is a
You're
powerful
lazy.
tool.
You're lazy, and you need to make more and get out there doing more math, and fun. That
Yes.
does that make
Yes,
sense?
I
I
will.
look like a jumbled mess.
Is there a statistic on like your YouTube that you pay most attention to? Because there's so many metrics that YouTube gives you to look at.
Yeah.
Like for example, like watch time is not that high for my videos. Like 15-minute video and like a couple minute watch time. It's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that's okay. I think the
and then
average is
there's-
like a 20%, 15-20%, something like that. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I wouldn't
That's
worry
good
too
to know.
much about that.
And
It's
then there's
low.
like nationalities of the people who are watching,
Mm.
and then gender of the people who are watching. My viewers have been 100% male, so you guys should not feel bad. I'm a feminist. You can be a feminist and still have 100% male audience.
It's the
Yeah.
nature of
Yeah.
what we. It's the nature of what we talk about. It's a male dominated industry. Unfortunately, I wish it would change. It's changing, but it's slow.
Yeah. Slow.
Where are my
But then
soul sisters? If you're out
one
there,
thing,
check out my page, guys.
Yeah,
I know you're out there.
We want more
Um,
female viewers, because it feels really off balance, and it's kind of a little bit disconcerting, I guess, when you look at it and you think, oh, we know there are female members in the community, but I guess they're just not interacting with this kind of content. I don't know. But I also
yeah,
think,
like I mean, let me tell you something real quick. Like, I have like few of my female friends who watch my content just to support me, even though they don't understand anything. But I mean, few people understand everything, but they just watch it because they'll give me enough critic, okay? And the demographic says it's like 100% male. I just don't get it. Like, I'll be like, did you actually watch in your actual account just to verify? But then they watch it like about 4 or 5 times. And still it shows 100% of male. I think it's not
not
real.
accurate.
not accurate. Yeah.
Of course,
Some of the-
all of those metrics require the person to be signed into YouTube
Hmm.
and have accurately described themselves in the first place, you know, date of
Yeah.
birth and all the rest of it. So
Yeah.
there'll be tons and tons and tons of people that watch videos not signed into YouTube.
Yeah.
And I don't
But
I
yeah,
don't know
my
how
friends
how
actually,
they'd know whether they're male or female.
yeah, at least like I know
Mhm.
my friends actually have set it up perfectly and they watched in their own because they comment on my videos. Like you can still see the comment over there in the video of
Mm.
my female friends, but it's just
Hmm.
ridiculous that it still shows 100%. Maybe
It's true.
it's not 100% Ellie. Like there are people watching your content. Even my friends watch your content, by the way. They'll really like your content. But yeah, just saying
My
there
content?
are like yeah, your content, yeah.
Oh,
I shared them around.
thank you.
Hey,
Yeah.
nice.
I
Yeah,
share most of your content around. Even Kev, I keep telling you that my friends really like them because like they're like the people who doesn't watch Blender stuff. It's more like for entertainment purposes, and they really enjoyed your videos, Kev.
Thanks.
Remember I
That's
told
awesome.
you? Yeah, exactly.
YouTube for the lulz, as
You know,
Kev once sagely said to me, in a despondent state after posting a video. Kev Binge enters the scene. Says, have no fear. YouTube is for the lulz.
I said that half as a joke, but half as truth because it really is. I mean, if you look at the channels that blow up, like aside from a few that are really, really dedicated, like
DJ Matter.
like Grant. Okay, he used to
Mhm.
come on here, and his
Mhm.
internet was kind of was bugging out, so he got frustrated, and he hasn't been on in a while. But it's not because he doesn't like us; he's just his internet. His channel, he teaches, and it's awesome, and he's just got like I don't know how many 300,000 subscribers now, right? So he grew, but he puts out like a video a day or something. But if you look at the other videos and the channels that blow up, they're edutainment. They're not like teaching per se. They're more like memes and lulls.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's why I say personally, as a person who likes to teach, I like Patreon better because YouTube is just like it's kind of just like an entertainment venue for people
Yeah.
who want to waste their time watching videos. And like there you can pick the learners out from that. Of course, there's going to be a spread of learners in there that are going to glob onto your content and really like it and learn from you and become like hardcore fans. But mostly channel growth is dependent on like the Mr. Beast style stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily teaching people anything, it's entertaining them. It's like people want to be entertained. They don't want to be like engaged on a cerebral level. I'm talking generalistic masses. So when your channel's growing, it's like, doing the fun stuff seems to always blow up, and like the stuff that is, really teaching people just kind of, falters. I don't know. That's just my own.
It's funny you should say that. I mean, I'm not big on YouTube, but one of my most popular videos is me running around my house like a loony, clicking go on a load of renders. That's it. That's basically what I'm doing. And I had the iPhone in my hand, like stretched out like that, facing towards me. I was like, is this even going to be framed properly and all the rest of it? And when I'm doing the spin arounds and all that, like, I'm like, actually, it worked out really, really well. I could not have done that better if I tried. But yeah, it's edutainment, as you say. It's rendering on multiple machines, but with Mikey running around his house like a loony.
Yeah, and it's crazy because if you don't really like love making that kind of content, it leaves you in a lurch because you're like, well, I won't grow on YouTube, but then it kind of forces you into that, and then it's a catch-22. So like when Ian came around and there was the Ian effect, and you realize like the genius he was teaching stuff to people like me, right? And I'm not saying that I'm above any. I'm not. That's not where I'm going with this. But like people who can look at his stuff and look at that really fast stuff and instantly know what he's doing and instantly apply it to our own stuff because we know what he's doing. Whereas like 90% of the audience is just like, that's really funny stuff. And like, they just like, if you look at the comments, same with CG Matter, like he just started doing that really fast stuff where if you know Blender really well, you can, or 3D at all, you can pick that stuff up and be like, all right, I get it. I know what he's doing. It's funny, but I'm getting something out of this. But like, I would say 90% of the people got nothing out of that other than, oh, look, I can go into the comments now and like make a joke. And they love that, and that's why when I said lulls, I was like, it just seems to be like, that's what it is. Like you look at the comments and the people who are most engaged, they're just in there for the memes. And
Michael,
if you go across the spread, right? Sorry, that's yeah, you go across the spread. That's what it seems to be on every channel.
Michael, how do you deal with this, like the playing the YouTube game and also running Canopy Games and creating a lot of content that seems very structured for legit education?
With a lot of difficulty, I think is the honest answer. It's not only difficult because of the quantity that needs to be done, but it's also difficult because it's two different mindsets. One's a logical follow along, need full structure, and the other is almost harebrained and very fluid. And I've dropped projects before just because time has passed and I'm no longer in that mind space where it would have been a funny video. When I did the running around the house, I was actually rendering out part of a course at the time of just like an aerial shot of it was either the city or one of the police cars that was being made. But anyway, I was rendering that out using cycles across multiple machines, and I just had this moment. I might have cracked, I don't know. Just grabbed my phone and ran around the house. And because I needed to run around the house and press play on everything, why not make a video out of that? And that video was done. But I've worked on a YouTube video for 2 weeks before, and I got to the end of it, and I'm like, it might be good for someone, but it was like really analytical, and I was like, no, I'm not enjoying this video. It doesn't look like I'm enjoying this video, and it's scrapped. But yeah, I wish I could devote more time to free content. I think it's a wonderful thing for anybody to be able to do, whether or not it's educational and entertainment or merged together or whatever. If you're providing something for someone, adding value, I think that's worthwhile. Yeah, but it is really challenging, and for me, it's hopping between the mind space. If I'm really focused on a course, I think at that point I just needed a breather, and it worked. It just fell into place for me at that point.
I haven't done a course yet. I have one definite course that I'm planning, and it's just gonna take forever to produce it because I had to do it right. But yeah, it's keeping up. It's playing that game. You know, like Ellie said, it's playing the game of YouTube, and it is a game, and it's starting to feel more and more like a game because it's like if I want to grow, then what do I have to do? What kind of stunt videos do I have to do to take off and really make it and run with it and blow up and be able to make the free traffic to stuff worth it? Or do I go full on entertainment where it just becomes about earning AdSense on YouTube? Or do I go into complete free content, in which case it's so confusing.
It's also very difficult to not be cliche with it. It's very easy to flip into the just be yourself and all that generic stuff. There is part of it, if you being yourself is one side of things, but I think a lot of people also they get off on being someone else, being a persona on YouTube. There's no problem doing that. I'm certainly different in different social scenarios, so why wouldn't I be different in a YouTube scenario, especially if you're entertaining someone? I mean, you just look at if you were trying to be funny, if you look at some of the best comedians like Rowan Atkinson or Jasper Carrot, he was a great British comedian. Both of those were incredibly quiet people, but you wouldn't know that from their performance, what they were doing. And ultimately, this is a performance. We're just having a chat here and we're chilling. But when you're on camera and it's your own thing and you're directing, you're writing, you might not be doing any of those things literally, but you are doing them. That gives you that creative freedom. So being yourself doesn't necessarily mean be quite shy you that everybody else knows. It might be being yourself, but the persona that you want to display to the world.
Yeah, I've been there when you said that you could tell that you weren't enjoying it, so other people were going to be able to tell that you weren't enjoying it.
100%.
Through my mom's environmental organization, like years ago, did a lot of videos, and at the time I didn't have as much practice behind or in front of the camera as I have now, and so just seeing those back, I can see the rage in my face. Just I don't want to be saying this stuff right now, and it's so awkward because it doesn't feel like me, and I hadn't yet found that persona, as you said, and even still now, like just looking at the camera and being like, subscribe is it's cringy on the inside, but you gotta do it. And so being able to toggle between those people is interesting. We were hanging out with CG Matter yesterday and talking about this to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he's got the CG Matter channel as well as the default Cube channel, but I would say he's a very different person outside of the YouTube. How did Michael phrase it? The social situation, as I'm sure we all are. So it's really interesting to see which one does well and how comfortable you are kind of compromising to reach an audience.
I actually, speaking about like knowing that you weren't comfortable, I watched an old video of mine which was explaining the space station generator, because I've been doing like all the biogen coding today, and I needed to like refresh what I was actually thinking at certain parts in the code. And I was looking at myself talking, I was thinking, boy, you are not comfortable doing this video. Yeah, like so many cuts. And I know that there was probably like a guide, but not like a proper script. And I could tell that just watching myself, my mind was in two different places, and I was like, oh no, why did I think that was like okay?
Uploadable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's one thing, right? Like at least you hit upload.
Yeah.
And I've got like a guy over here sitting on 6 to 7 terabytes of video, like actual content that's been shot that's never seen the light of day, because I look at it and I see that and I'm like,
Here's an idea for you. So editing your own stuff can be a real both pain, but also you're watching it back and it's like, I'm not saying get an editor as such, but if you've got someone else to just do a few, even as a test run or something like that, they often pick out the funny bits or the bits that work together really well, whereas perhaps you wouldn't do that. You're like, oh no, that's too embarrassing. But a friend or even just someone you hire to do this one-off cut, they'll be like, oh, that was hilarious, I'm putting that in.
Yeah.
You might watch it back and cringe, but again, it falls in part of the entertainment category.
Yeah, I'm slowly
Cringe is
falling into
entertainment,
that.
that's true.
Yeah. No, I don't think there will ever be a moment where I watch. So I'm just sorry. I'm playing the tape right now and then playing it back at the same time as I'm saying what I'm about to say and cringing already at me watching this in the future, cringing at the fact that I said this. So it's you know, I've come to terms with that. I wanted to really quickly dial it back before we lose that train of the audiences and the disparity, like specifically in terms of like gender and watch time. People that are watching YouTube videos aren't all signed in at the same time, aren't all being true about their identity. Sometimes you just fill an account just to like do it quickly. Maybe you're watching it in school or library or something. But also in the subject of representation, I think it's important if we want to, in every field, and especially like here on this channel, if you want to have more people engaging with the content that look different than us, to invite people that look different than us and that feel different than us. So I think in this case, obviously we have Ellie and we've had other people here that are not male presenting or non-binary or are non-binary. If you are a non-binary or not white male presenting content creator on YouTube who's got some Blender knowledge and you've got things that you want to showcase, reach out, because we'd definitely be interested in hearing you and having you on, because we want to make sure that we're representing the Blender community, which is incredibly diverse, as best as we can on BlenderNest. And so this is extended already to our community conversations on the Discord server. I lied, there's the plug again. But also to this channel and the sort of things that we see making in the future. So if that's you feel identified by what I just said, reach out.
We're very pro you know, representative of the entire community, which is worldwide. Many continents, many ethnicities, many everything, just everything goes. So anything is changes it up is great.
And I mentioned this in my personal podcast, Time to Plug Holdcast.
Yes, I missed that bit. It's called Building the BlenderNest Community on Holdcast.
Yeah, I spoke a bit about that. I spoke in that a bit about the kind of selection process for BlenderNest members. There's not really a selection process, but it's more about like the kind of things that we don't want, because we've all got kind of very similar personality traits and we all kind of, you know, believe in very similar things. And like one of those things is intolerance. Like if there's anyone that flags up as having even a slightly intolerant personality towards other people, it's like, no, like I'm not willing to kind of get someone that into a position like this, you know.
this was going to be part of that plug right now. You get to see the behind the scenes. I have it up right now, building the BlenderNest community. It's Holdcast number 6, and yeah, in that Curtis talks about the specifics of. They're not the guidelines, as you said, for the people we'd consider having on. Like, it's not tried and true, but I think just to keep it short, just like use your judgment, do some introspection.
I mean, I get it, like, especially if you haven't like had an opportunity to, I guess, engage with something that has like attention looking at it before. You want to kind of like sell yourself like you do when you're writing a CV or something, or a resume. You're always selling yourself just a bit more than the truth, you know? And there's, you know, it's been some occasions where people have maybe tried a bit too hard and it's come up a bit the wrong way. But about the whole intolerance thing, of course, like all of us, we want to be very open to the differences that people have, you know, like race and ethnicity, sexuality, gender, whatever. And we don't necessarily speak about it in very objective terms on this podcast, or we haven't done before. But I guess another way to put it is there's allies in this grouping. So
yeah, we like people from every walk of life to be represented here because it makes it more fun and more interesting.
Look what I've got.
So.
Oh,
yeah,
little sneak preview for
I love it
for 100k. But this is sod's law. I'm never going to reach 100k now. It's just going to be hanging up.
Yeah, you and me both, man. Let me tell you, it's just I saw that, I laughed for like 20 minutes. I think it's the coolest thing ever. I think I'm gonna buy one myself.
Maybe I'll keep this on just for now as a sneak preview for the episode.
That's awesome.
For the people.
If BlenderNest gets to 100k, we'll all wear them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the hoodie over, please.
Oh, I've got my my headset on, so it might be a bit weird, but it's quite a big one. So I'm going to hold it back a bit so I can still see.
Oh, wow.
There we go. It's a bit warm. Thankfully, I've got the fan on as well.
Warm
Yeah.
is good.
I'm going
Hot
to
is not
overheat a
good.
little bit in this. I'm going to keep it down.
Oh, wow.
All right. Next
That's
topic.
amazing.
This is a little gift for the people that actually make it this far through the podcast.
Oh,
So,
wow.
well
Thanks
done.
for joining.
Actually, speaking about
Like-
that, I have occasionally thought about like dropping something super valuable at the end of a video before, or like at the end of like a really boring video, like the discussion ones, and I never got around to it. But I was thinking when Hulkcast was on my main channel, I was thinking, right, I might just give like a 100% off for like modular metals or something at the at the end of a video, because only a few
by the
people
way,
are going to
guys.
make it there.
Yeah. By the way, guys, the 10 people who came till here will get tile kit for free. Use code BlenderNest, okay? Let's see who will get through this.
I
Yeah.
like that Easter egg of. I think
Yeah.
it was on a Holdcast episode. You're like, oh, my knee.
Help me. Oh,
I
okay, guys.
have something to share while we jump to the next subject. Yes, so this is for my next video, which is how to make a CG Matter action figure.
Oh my god, that's
Oh,
brilliant.
wow, that's beautiful.
It's
Nice.
gonna be fun.
I love the fashion choice.
Yes, this was all him.
Love it. All right, next discussion point. On the BlenderNest Discord server, we have the guest chats where we have people invited, or well, they can apply as well. I think is that form public? Just out of interest.
No.
No,
No.
Not yet. I've been sharing it.
All right, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Come on over to the BlenderNest Discord server where we have community chats where people come along from all different walks of the Blender community, all different walks of life, I should say, to share their experience and their ideas and their projects, and just basically just explain themselves to the people that are listening. If you come over to the server, make sure you check the introductions channel, because on there will be a series of reaction emotes where you can sign up to be notified of different types of content, and one of them is the community discussions that we have with these people. Coming up, we have Kate, or K38, what's the username?
Yep.
K38. Yep. And we have Ben, BBBN19, who I've mentioned a few times on my channel as well. Excellent artist. I think he's just passed 8,000 followers on Twitter now.
Yeah.
Actually, very good. And there's also some dude called Curtis Holt, not that interesting. Don't worry about him. So yeah, come along for the others. They'll be very cool. And if you check blendernest.space/events, then you can see I'd say a timetable, but it's more just a list that shows the different dates for the peeps. So please come along. It's fun. It'll be live. We're all going to be there. You can chat to us. Yes.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. It's always a good time. And there's an after party if you stay till the end. So
Yeah.
those are always fun. BlenderNest.space/contact if you want to reach out about being featured on one of these, or just join the server.
Yeah, they're really great. I was really upset I missed the last one. I had stuff come up, but that was really, really, they're worth going to.
I like the after parties.
Yeah, they're quite fun. They never know what to expect. Therapy session, discussion about just all kinds of random stuff.
Discussion about CG Matter and what to do with him.
Oh yeah, that would be one.
Oh yeah, I wasn't there in that chat. You said that you were going to discuss some like things that you could talk to him about, I think.
Yeah, so we hung out with him yesterday, as I mentioned, and you're getting a sneak preview here on the BlenderNest podcast that CG Matter will be in one of these community conversations in the next couple of weeks. And we were just thinking, I was trying to brainstorm think tank, group source, hive mind, fun video ideas to shoot with CG while we're all still in the same space.
This entire episode is just turning into one big advertisement. By the way,
join the server.
Yeah. Check out Sketchfab. No, I'm joking. They didn't pay me.
I think we're all yabbering on about it because this is sort of a pivotal time in the trajectory of what BlenderNest is.
Yeah.
And everyone is kind of brainstorming, people on the podcast, but also just everybody on the server, all of us together are brainstorming ways to support one another as we grow in our Blender journey, like ways to create and collaborate with one another, and ways to perhaps like bring our Blender knowledge to projects beyond Blender, and sort of like recreate what a Discord community is. So we have that unique platform that was mentioned already, which is sort of like a interactive podcast stage where we have speakers from the community come and share what they're up to. And that has been really unique for me in my experience being on a bunch of different Discords, and really unique for people in the audience and people on the stage. So that's really cool. But we want to do more. We want to push the boundaries more, and we can't do that alone because, as you know, all of us are busy making like lulz YouTube content. So we need the power of the people to join us in this exploration together. So
Yeah, it's very well said. I love that. But also, like, kind of going back to one of the earlier conversations about kind of being yourself and when you're on and off camera and like how it's different. I've always loved the engagement with the audience. That's one of the reasons why I started doing discussion videos at one point, even though it wasn't a good move for the channel, but it was a good move for the emotional satisfaction of it. And what these live chats do is they give us a proper opportunity to engage with people. So when we're in those chats and I look at the numbers of like the audience members, I'm like, okay, that's good, but more. We need more. We can do more. There's more people to engage with, more people to chat with. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So please come along. You can talk to us directly. We're not always like available in all the other places, even in our own service sometimes, but we congregate for these events. So if you want to talk to us, then come along. Come along.
Yeah. You can actually get a sneak peek of my pet rock once in a while if you come along over there. Good deal.
They're great places.
Check on it.
It's all so funny.
There's contests, if you didn't know already. There's challenges. The contest, we had a recent contest winner win a copy of Grasswald Pro. Grasswald. There's a challenge going on right now that ends at some point in the future. That's BlenderNest or Nest specific, and you can join those. And there's also, which is one of my favorites from the server, a resources channel. So if people find free or paid resources like add-ons or tools or GitHub repositories or what have you, or even want to share some of the things that they themselves have created as assets, those are also available there on the resources channel. So it's a good way to receive and give back to the community in that as well. We also answer questions. If you have technical questions or Blender specific questions, you may not always get an answer from us, but part of the benefit of having so many people on the server now is that I've seen people jump in and answer questions for others. There's the art reviews, which we'll have more of coming up, where you can submit your art and get that reviewed by us. And there's a whole other slew of awesome channels that I won't tell you too much about so that I don't spoil the surprise when you join them yourself.
Yeah.
We'd also appreciate if you guys would comment in the comments below your favorite person to plug BlenderNest. Each of us have our different styles, and we'd appreciate which one you find most compelling.
Yeah, love it.
Now we can officially call this part, like, this video advertising BlenderNest, I would say.
Yep. Self-promotion 101. By the way, the BlenderNest Patreon is still up. I mean, I haven't put it anywhere. Maybe I'll put it on the website at some point. I haven't taken it down yet, but I did pause the payment for last month because we were making such big changes. Kind of gives people an opportunity to drop off. But I think we should probably keep it up because there were people that went to my Patreon just for BlenderNest before. And I think it's nice to have a spot where it's like, okay, well, this is like the fund for BlenderNest, like people just want to give it for this. I think that's all right. So I'll probably leave it up, do some branding changes, and maybe put it on the website or something.
Something we've talked about on the server, but also on here to some degree, is that part of the benefits of having this sort of BlenderNest egg is that we can do things like these contests and giveaways and challenges and keep the website running and keep the community conversations going, because it does all take up a reasonable amount. It's a full-time job, and we're all essentially doing several full-time jobs to keep this going. Like being on call to be able to address some questions, or booking people to come and have these community conversations, researching them, interviewing them, asking questions, staying out after for the Q&A and stuff is all things that I love doing. But I'm just one person working on this with a team of people, right? And if we have the means to continue doing this throughout, what's the word? And the longevity to do that, then that will just be all the better, because that means that we can communicate with other members of the community who might be open to sharing some of their add-ons and resources for us to share on the BlenderNest community server.
Yeah. There was supposed to be another video that was up on the channel sometime this week or last week, but
the lost tapes.
But something happened. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. The audio went wrong in the recording, so we lost like a 1.5 to 2 hour session. It was a long one, I remember, but yeah.
It was lots of fun.
Thank God it was not art review.
On that point, though, I would like the community chats to be on the channel, because I think it would encourage more people to want to take part and come along, because it's a good way to get people informed about the channel, or not the channel, the chats, without us having to push it all the time.
True.
Yeah.
Because then those can also be shared in other places. So it becomes its own form of advertisement while getting people excited about being on the channel and providing more content for the channel.
Yeah, I think Paul's right now in terms of recording has been maybe the cleanest.
Yeah, probably. Paul's also just very good at like talking and keeping it going and not having awkward pauses. And
one thing I want to mention is like it's nothing related to what we're talking till now. It's Mayterials. It's a month-long challenge, just like November, conducted like mostly people use Substance Designer for this one, where people like all the Blender users use Blender for doing the same stuff, creating one material every single day, depending on the topic. You don't have to do every single time, but why I'm telling this is because not many people know about Mayterials now. Like I see on Twitter, like Twitter is the active place where everyone shares their artwork of Mayterials, and not many people are participating in this than last time. Maybe they're not aware of it, so I just want to like mention that one here.
And if people want to find the prompts for Mayterials, where would they go to find them?
Everything will be on this Discord channel which connects it, which is the club Mayterials. That's the channel which is basically conducting Mayterials this year. Last time that's not who they're not the ones who conducted that, but this year they are the one who conducted that. You can find all the links in the Twitter.
Did that come from Substance? Was that where it was birthed? That
I mean, like it's not like Substance people started that. It's like just like November, not Blender people started that. Like it's a small group of people who thought it'd be cool to conduct a month-long event, like Sculpt January by Zacharias Reinhardt as well.
Got it.
So yeah.
Thanks. I was like, where did this come from? I'm like, oh, another month of
yeah.
torture.
I started participating in that. Like I did the day 1 and day 2. I'm just editing the day 1 video just to put a time lapse on my channel. It's crazy though.
Yeah,
Like the time lapse is ready, but then the voiceover, I just wanted to ask you guys, like, for a voiceover, what would you want to know, like, about me talking about stuff that I made? Like, what would you guys expect something
I
to
would,
be there in it?
I would be more interested in hearing about things that I can't see in the time lapse. Like, I ran into this issue, but then I got around it over this, even if
Uh,
it's not directly related to what I'm seeing,
Mm.
because
yeah,
I feel like for beginner, maybe not so much for beginner, but intermediate to advanced users or people who are in it just to watch a time lapse and not necessarily to learn about something Blender related,
yeah,
that might be more interesting than just getting a slowed down version orally of what they're seeing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't just make a full, like, it's a 13 minutes or 14 minutes of time lapse of whatever I'm gonna present. I can't speak for all 13 minutes because it'll be like bits and pieces here and there, like what I'm trying to do. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'll explain the whole process in the first, like while it is playing. Like I'll say how much time did this take and the like lighting took or whatever, and slowly I'll get into more personal stuff as well, like putting out myself on my channel. It's
Mm.
like me. You'll see me instead of like a scripted version of me. You know, like this is going to be like a single take or like me just without scripting, just talking about what I made. Remember, Curtis, that's what you did for one of the podcasts. Like you just lied around, you just talked about whatever you wanted to talk
Yeah.
instead of like scripting stuff what you want to talk. So this will be like more of a personality will be visible here. That's exactly where I want to reach. I'm just very conscious about myself putting out on the internet. But again, I do want to put me on the internet instead of like a scripted version of me.
Yeah, speaking about that, actually, that's something that I started doing, but then I stopped doing for some reason, because I really wanted to get away from doing scripts and be a bit more organic about stuff, but I've gone back into doing scripts, but it really depends on the type of video. For the ones where I'm kind of explaining what I did from my mind, like the LiDAR one, the end of photogrammetry, I literally did this. It's the first time I ever did it. I got up from the computer, put the chair there, I kind of just rested on it, kind of looked around in the room and just like closed my eyes and just was like, okay, well, so recently I've been doing this, and then I was experimenting with this, and I thought that this was actually pretty fun, and this, that, and the other. And I just got into the swing of it, and it actually came out pretty well, because you kind of forget while you're doing it that you're editing everything down afterwards. So if it doesn't sound organic, or if you leave like large spaces, you can just remove them, and you know, and you sound pretty clever and fluent by the end of it, and it's just a lot more organic. So it might be worth it. Just stand and give yourself a bit of a lecture. Yeah, well, I thought about doing this, but actually, I kind of changed my mind about this side of it, and it actually turned out pretty well, and just get a little bit of movement in there. Your favorite discussion video I did was the one where I was standing up. Do you remember that?
I was. Yeah, I know.
Everything
It's
else
like
is so
that's the best
static,
one.
but as soon as you stand up, it gets a lot better. Oof.
Yeah, I know.
Back when we were spending more time on Clubhouse, I was spending more time on Clubhouse. My mother-in-law, I did an interview with Arturo on a group called Imaginarium, which is sort of like a similar concept as BlenderNest, but more personalized, and ran by Arturo. And my mother-in-law, her comment when listening to us was it sounded a bit rigid. And she recommended that we stand up and stretch and do a few vocal exercises before jumping into the chat. Because the voice is actually a full body thing.
Yeah.
Like you need it to travel and feel loose, and especially in an audio format when people can only hear your voice. The the tones matter, and the little intonations, details matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
The one thing I realized was like, when I'm practicing what to say in the video before, like, because it's unscripted, I just want to know how I'm going to sound. I was walking around in the fields. I was just walking here and there and was like, it sounded so good. Like I sat and pressed record. It's just not the same. I was like, damn it, where did this go? And that's when I was like, maybe I should, walk around. But then again, this is a small cable that I have, so I have to sit. Maybe I'll stand and do one. Probably that might help.
Another thing I'll say about the recordings is like in the last video I did, which was the useful tips for cycles one. I thought that I was getting pretty good at reading from scripts, like over time, because it's been like 3 years or something. I was getting quite fast at doing it, but my god, that one, like I was hitched on like the same sentence for like 8 minutes or something, thinking,
no.
God, I just can't do it. Like you completely forget how to talk. Like sometimes you feel like you're okay with it and you're pretty fluent with it. I even experimented with like moving the text into like a thinner column so that I could start pre-reading the next lines beforehand. That actually helped for a little while, but it's just not organic.
Yeah, I think Kev is really good at this one. Even though he scripts jokes, it still fits so well. Like
His jokes are scripted.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think so.
I write it organically, and then I just kind of ad lib when I do it. But sometimes I cringe because I'm like, oh, why did I even leave that in there? It just sounds so scripted. But whatever.
Kev cringe.
But thanks, because it makes me feel better.
Kev cringe instead of Kev bench.
Yeah, somebody actually said that. Kev cringe. I was like, shit, I'm gonna do a second rebrand of my channel now.
Well, friends, it's almost 4:20, which is time for Curtis's shower.
Yeah, okay, I'll stop the recording now.